I don't know anyone else who does an event like this, something that's specifically for renovators and Airbnb hosts. I think that's the special thing about it. And I also think that the community is awe-inspiring.
You're listening to the She Renovates podcast. You're listening to She Renovates, the podcast for women who want to renovate to create an income and a life they love.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming in to participate in our episode today. We're back with another episode of She Renovates. And before we kick off, I just want to introduce our panel today and our topic. So what we're going to be talking about is the Wonder Women Retreat. Now, the reason we're doing a live podcast on this is because this year we are extending an invitation to some people outside our Wonder Women community to participate in the event. And I know that probably, brings up questions around how it's going to work and what it really is about. So we thought that we would do an episode on it to share the magic of the retreat and to make really clear what's going to happen. And I have the delightful Elizabeth Gordon, who is now our community manager, but last year she was a retreat participant. So she's coming here with two hats. And the most important one is her personal experience of the Wonder Women Retreat, and also James Burgin. And James is our event magician. He brings a richness and a depth of experience to our events. And so we're all on the call, and Rona will be popping in later. So welcome, James and Elizabeth.
Thanks so much, Bernadette.
Thanks, Bernadette. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So firstly, I wanted to talk about really what the retreat is and why we run it and why you might want to think about attending. And so basically what we do is we go away for a week. We find a beautiful location that is conducive to what we do, which is create beautiful spaces, either for as renovations and also as Airbnb. And when you are creative, you need to have creative input and inspiration. And so we set about providing that, the creativity, the inspiration, and also building on your knowledge. So that's the first thing we set out to do. The second one is that often when you're working on your properties, it can be quite a lonely experience because you're really just communicating with the contractors or whoever you're working with, and you don't sort of really have a brain's trust. And so I know that that's a valuable sort of role of the retreat for our women to build their brain's trust. And Elizabeth mentioned, and I'm sure she'll mention it again later, that you build lifelong friends, and the beauty of it is that they are like-minded. So one of the things that we hear from our renovators is that they can't talk to their friends about what they do because either they're not interested or they don't understand, and we'll be giving you, saying, why are you doing that? So this is a brain's trust of women who are completely on board with what you're doing and will support you all the way. The third reason we do it, and I'm going to hand this one over to you, Elizabeth, is the power of the mastermind or the power of the community. Having experienced that, do you want to just develop that a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have done many things in renovation myself and was a first-time attendee at Bernadette's retreat last year. And I found that it was just a fantastic experience. And I never imagined I would be working with Bernadette, but I just got so much inspiration from the group. And in fact, now that I am part of the team, I've had the pleasure of going through some of the feedback from last year, And I think that the most important takeaway that participants got was the inspiration and empowerment that they got out of being with a group of like-minded women. There were, of course, other things. They loved the tour that we went on. They loved the girls' night in, which was one aspect of the retreat. But above everything else, they loved the opportunity to see the community, the projects being done by people in the community, and be empowered and inspired by those.
Yeah,
Myself included.
yeah, and it creates an incredible atmosphere. It's very energizing, I think. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the other thing that happens there is joint venture partners are formed, which is another reason why it's good to sort of be expanding our horizons again. We're quite a small community, and certainly when you're talking about joint ventures, you want to be able to broaden your horizons. So, yeah, I think that's sort of a good overall description of what it's all about. Now, I'm very grateful to James because we're in the process of working out. We've, had a few ideas about where we would go this year. And seriously, it was all getting very hard until James stepped in and found the perfect location. And it's really the venue that's really giving us the opportunity to open it up to a wider group of people. And of course, James has an illustrious sort of career as an event manager, and sort of, I call you the magician, James. So do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Well, first of all, the venue. When we were having this conversation about where we would go, I thought, why don't we go to the Southern Highlands? Because it's relatively close to Sydney. It's not really that far from other locations where we've got renovators community. I know some people would have to travel further, but even for Melbourneites, I imagine they'll be convoying by car, and we'll be doing airport pickups and that sort of thing. So it's an easy access place. And I suddenly thought about this particular venue, the Robertson Hotel, which I have visited. I've never stayed there before. And there was just something grand and inspiring about the space. And so by the end of that day, I was on the phone to them, and it turns out, yes, they've got dates available. And the event manager is a serial renovator herself. And we started brainstorming about all sorts of possibilities. And so I felt like the power of serendipity, which we've talked about before on this podcast, was like coming to the fore. So now the venue, which is an absolutely grand old lady, and apparently Karen, who's our event manager at the hotel, said that at one point in time, the Robertson Hotel was the most grand hotel in the Southern Hemisphere. So she's beautiful, and she's in the process of being fully restored, largely already restored, but absolutely full of charm. So that will unfold for you if you choose to jump in and join us. But what I wanted to say about the experience that Bernadette was alluding to is what I think about events is that they're not just what takes place when you're sitting down in a chair or listening to a speaker, or that there might be a workshop or something. I think of it as a complete immersion experience. So, and you'll have to remind me of the French term, Bernadette, which is the archway when you drive up at the front, or something, porte cochere.
Porte cochere, yeah.
Porte cochere, thank you. Well, when you arrive at it, that's the first experience. You'll drive up this long, beautiful driveway, past green lawns, to the porte cochere, where you'll be greeted probably by us, and then you'll go into this absolutely otherworldly experience. And so my job as just part of the team will be to make sure this otherworldly experience is amazing, immersive, and it's an entire learning experience from the moment you arrive to the moment you leave and beyond. And so that's really the magic of the retreat, is that what takes place, in the orangery over high tea, or the ballroom for some of the presentations, or the local pub down the road where we'll go for dinner. I mean, all of that is part of the the rich renovating experience. So I could go on, but you can't probably get the idea.
We absolutely do. And I did also want to mention that James is very well credentialed in this area, because how many years did you work with Robert Kiyosaki managing his events?
I think it was probably maybe about 10 years.
Yeah.
I was involved in his events, including in many cities across the US. And my concept was to develop what I call a theme park. And so we would go into a city, there'd be 2,000 people coming for the evening presentation. And we had a team of 50 volunteers and we'd set it all up in a matter of a few hours. And the minute the participants arrived, they were in this whole Rich Dad theme park experience. And then we took that to the next level on the weekend events. So I love that. And I worked with many speakers and authors throughout the US I was there for 10 years. So, and before that in Australia, we did it with events too. So yeah, that's my fun stuff.
So James, I'm assuming that those events were quite big.
Some of them were quite small, actually. So the principles apply, whether it's a small group of 10 people or, a 2,000 person like public event, or a weekend retreat for 50 to 100 people. It's all the same. But, the learning takes place, as I'm sure you would know as a listener, when you've been in an environment where you're learning and you're networking with other people, you might be having a cocktail in the bar or something like that. It's those conversations, as Liz mentioned before, that are the magical ones that grow relationships and lifetime friendships. So, and in renovating, and I'm one of them, I'm privileged to be one of the few, one of the blokes, and I know other blokes are invited, which you might speak to too, Bernadette. But they're small or large. It's the same principles which we are working with in this retreat.
Yes, and instead of the Rich Dad theme park, we'll be having the Wonder Woman theme park or experience. So, yeah.
Indeed, we will.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, of course, the venue is the Robertson Hotel, which is a very gracious country house. And we have booked out the entire property, and it's fully staffed with a chef, an event manager.
Dripping with service staff,
Yeah,
like,
yes.
having your bedrooms made up every day. I mean, it's totally gorgeous. It's a step back in time, but with all my cons.
Yeah. And the other thing is, because the hotel itself has been renovated in a way that's really sympathetic to its history, it's not like stepping into a corporate hotel or a polished hotel. It's not all absolutely perfect. There is so much of the fabric of the past that you're still able to experience. And I think that that's, for us, is really good. In terms of the program, there is lots that happens over that week. The day one, the diamonds come early. So I'm going to be quite complete about this, because I know many of our Wonder Women are watching and will be wanting to know what the format is. The diamonds start at 11 o'clock on the 12th of June. And we do our regular boardroom. And basically, there's a few things that happen in there. But the main thing about that event is the masterminding. So the diamonds are quite a tight-knit group of people. They're our high achievers. And so basically, when you come into that room, you have the whole group of, I guess, experience and intellect to focus on your particular project or challenge or whatever. The other thing that we're doing this year is I have one of our graduates who in the last couple of years has done something like 16 projects, including a lot of micro development and so on. She's going to be presenting to the group because there are quite a few women in the group that are planning to be doing projects in Queensland. So we try and base the content on where everyone is at. So that's the boardroom. Anyhow, so after the boardroom, we all get together and have a welcome session to set our intentions for the week, to welcome everyone into the fold, because those relationships are really special and we do everything we can to nurture them. And then, of course, we move into the dining room and have our first welcome dinner for the week. And that's always a very exciting affair. So through the week, lots of things happen. And I want to bring you into this conversation, Elizabeth, because you've been also very involved in creating the agenda, and it is a work in progress. And as you mentioned, you went through all the feedback from last year to make sure we captured the things that people really loved. And we've also got some new things to add to it. So do you want to talk about, what those things are that you have suggested that we repeat? And
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say that alongside the beauty of the location and the great activities that we'll be running, I guess, from early in the morning till late in the evening, there is a core program which is all about renovating and micro development. So we got tremendous feedback last year about some of the fundamental subjects that Bernadette and other specialists covered that relates to our craft. So Bernadette spent quite a lot of time going into detail on a couple of topics, and one of them was due diligence. And you would think that the Diamonds and the other Wonder Women who were there would be all over their due diligence, but the feedback showed that they just loved talking about that in depth. And this year, Bernadette's talking about perhaps covering the feasibility work that she's done and the beauty of the feasibility spreadsheets that she's built and is advancing all the time. But on top of that, another really a topic that grabbed people's attention and interest was one about renovating in your self-managed super fund or doing property projects within your self-managed super fund. And I know myself, I'm reaching the age, it always seemed so far away, but suddenly I'm on the brink of approaching retirement and starting to think in that way. And it was really mind-blowing. So those fundamental learning about our craft is so important, and women really love it. And it's a very strong element of the program. It's not all about the bubbles. It's really mainly about the renovating, and the bubbles just make it very special on the side.
Yeah, awesome. So yes, as you mentioned, this year I'm going deep into feasibility, and it's a really great opportunity to do that because it's quite a technical topic, and it's really good to sort of just for a short period of time capture everyone's attention and know that they understand the process. So, and it will probably be the only really heavy topic. I will try and keep it light and fun. But another thing that we're going to be doing is a workshop on creating cash flow other than your projects, because in the property market there are all sorts of ups and downs, and particularly with high interest rates you need to be able to think quite laterally about ways that you can generate cash to help you ride through those times. And so that's certainly one of the sessions that I want to bring into the program, but not like we're just like I have quite a repertoire of ideas, but it's really more of a workshop because we have a brains trust of women who also have deep experience and are able to contribute to that.
Bernadette, going back to your comment about feasibility, I think there's another aspect which you bring. Of course, there's the heaviness or the technicality of it. I wouldn't call it heavy because I've always been inspired by using your methods. But I think there's also a skill of the initial, like it's training your eyes and to be able to do back of the napkin type feasibility concepts just to get through a whole bunch of rough chaff in order to put the right ones into the more in-depth feasibility. So I know from hanging out with you as a friend that I've been able to gain my skills and what's your mastery on that the range of skills. So I think that's also what you will be bringing out to make a clarify what I think you're bringing to the table there.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, James. And of course, we always work with goals and mindset, and this will be no different. This year, we're going to be following the 3-1-90 method. I'm always trying to find ways to make our goal setting and how we achieve them more effective. And James actually mentioned this method to me, and I think like inadvertently, it's a method that I follow, but I've never really articulated it like that. And I think that's a great thing for our women to really grasp, because recently, I think I was telling someone that if you write your goals down, had access to a study that was done quite recently, which demonstrated if you have your goals written down, you've got 10% likelihood of achieving them. If you write them down and you create a plan for it, it's around 20%. There's a few other graduates, but if you write them down, you have a plan for it, and you share it with someone, that jumps up to something like 60%. And then if you add an accountability process into that mix, then your likelihood of achieving your goals is 95%. So that's why we're really, that's why we run accountability sessions every single week. It's in order for you to have a better chance, or the best chance, of achieving your goals. And what we find is the more accountability we have in our program, the more effective it is. So the beginning of that is actually the way you document and keep in focus what you're trying to achieve. So, and then of course, working on your mindset to help you to achieve them.
Very exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And so, Elizabeth, are we doing the girls' night in again?
By popular demand, we are doing the girls' night in again. It was just a fantastic opportunity to let our hair down and a whole lot of fun. And I remember thinking at the beginning of this, I hate this stuff, I'm not going to relax around with this group of people that I don't know. But I think we did the girls' night in on the second or the third night, and it was just fantastic. I couldn't help myself. By then I knew people well enough. I really had relaxed. And I had the most fun that I've had in ages with these bunch of women that I was getting to know. It was just fun dancing and with a lot of craziness, and it was just so free and relaxed. I loved it.
Yes, I distinctly remember you really rocking in your pajamas, just saying.
Yeah. I've always loved to dance, but it's been a while between nightclubs. So I just let my hair down.
And so that's probably an appropriate time to talk about non-discrimination. So we call ourselves Wonder Women because we predominantly work with women, because there aren't many programs that really keep in mind the particular challenges that women have. And that can be around the environment they're working in, but it's also around, there's a common denominator in our mindset. And so really helping us to overcome that. But we do have, I always say, a few good men in our program. Some of them are husbands. We've got James, who is both a student and a wonder bloke and part of our team, because if you haven't noticed, I like to employ our renovators because they know the deal, they understand the process. But of course, no man worth his salt will want to go to the girls' night in. And I don't know that the girls will be too happy with that. And so we have the girls' night in, and we also have the boys' night out. And that's where the boys, there's actually a very nice cheese bar and wine bar in Robertson, and that's what they will be doing. And so that we can have our special time, together, and then and make sure that everyone's looked after.
More broadly, Bernadette, you're saying that we're non-discriminatory and guys can join, knowing that there's a process of checking out if you're a good fit. So,
Yeah.
in other words, we're open to everyone,
Yeah.
and I feel very privileged to be part of the community, and I've had incredible value from the community as a renovator.
Yeah.
So, it's been a really good experience.
So I think the thing I think about this is, like, I personally, I love working with women, even for myself with my coach and so on. Like I've been with Diola for like 10 years, but my personal coach is a woman. And just because that's my preference. And I know a lot of women have that preference, but I would never dream of suggesting that everything I achieve is on my own. I personally know that I benefit hugely from the input of some really good men, one of which is my husband, the other obviously is James. Yeah, I think that's probably all I need to say about that.
And so I think we should mention that women are welcome to bring their partners. Did you want to just sort of mention that? There are
Yeah,
some people
absolutely.
bringing partners.
Usually we'll have 4, 5, maybe 6, a group of that many men. And, like, I think it's nice to share the experience. Obviously, we have some sessions where we do different things, but yeah, and so important to note that there are very few share rooms in this venue. So generally you'll have a room on your own with an ensuite. There are a few that don't have that, but so bringing a partner is quite easy. You've got your own space. And so James, do you want to speak about the bus trip?
Sure. Well, the Southern Highlands is quite a paradise, as I think many people would know. And interestingly, Karen, our event manager, she describes Robertson as the Bellingen of the Southern Highlands, as opposed to the Byron Bay. So it's a little bit quirkier. It's a little bit less la-di-da than Bowral proper, though we have got, as part of our day tour, a visit to this absolutely gorgeous place and precinct inside right in Bowral. We'll also be visiting some masterful renovated houses from expert renovators and interior designers. So it will be a day full of inspiration. And I'm fingers crossed, I think we've got it firmed up, is we have an Airbnb manager for the region who has multiple properties under her management, and she'll be introducing us to her principles of how she manages those, and also seeing some of the more quirky ones, which I know inspires us all. In addition to that, there, of course, there's all the conversation that goes on the bus trip, and a wonderful lunch. Sometimes we have talks on the bus too, like where there's real like downloading of distinctions and sharing of inspiration. So that certainly happens as well.
Yeah, and numbers. We love
Oh,
the
that's right. I
numbers.
was thinking that some of our actual community live in the area, and they'll be sharing their renovations. So it's from the inside out as well.
Absolutely. So basically, in our packages, everything is covered: accommodation, activities, all the catering. The only thing that you might have to pay for is the odd coffee here and there. We'll have high tea. We're going to have one. And so we'll dress up for some things, but you'll know all about this ahead of time. Cocktails, lots of fun things to do. So I think that the next thing to do is to go through some frequently asked questions. Things like, Elizabeth, do you want to talk about the affordability of the retreat?
Yes, I definitely can talk to that. For a long time, it's a funny thing. It's a little bit more than the affordability of just this retreat. Talk about a mindset matter. I was well into my 40s, and I kept hearing about retreats, and I always wanted to go, but I thought to myself, I can't afford it. I'm not at that stage of my life. And I had a realization one day, which was I have done a lot of things in my life and I have achieved quite a bit, even though it wasn't as big as and great as I thought it should be. But I suddenly realized or asked myself, well, if I can't afford it, if I haven't made it by my mid 40s enough to allow myself to go to a retreat, then something was wrong. So I have been to several retreats, and Bernadette's included. And I think it's so important because it allows you to be in kind of in the environment of people who are not saying all the reasons why you shouldn't do what you're interested in. You're surrounded by people who are doing and continue to do what you're interested in. The other thing is, there's a expression, I can't remember it exactly, but that your net worth reflects the net worth of the 10 people you hang around with most frequently. And whilst I don't for a moment think or suggest that we can kind of reject people in our lives who kind of are not as aspirational as perhaps many of us are, I do think that that's important. And going on a retreat is just a great way of surrounding yourself by people who are doing great things. So that question of whether it's affordable or not is partly mindset. Like, when will you be able to afford these things that you desire in your life, or we as renovators, is one thing. But I think it's very affordable. And the thing that made it much more affordable for me last year was that, and I will continue to do this, it was a tax deduction, because I already earned some income from property. And the premise of the retreat was about improving my ability to earn income from property. So I'm a bit of a daggy kind of task-orientated person. I love learning, and that's why I'm balancing out all the fun things Bernadette and James are talking about by the more studious things that I love as well. But when you're doing some studious things, chances are it could be a tax deduction. So I just took that opportunity to have the government pay for quite a big part of my retreat, including my airfares, and because last year it was in Victoria. So I can't give financial advice, but my accountant said that it was okay for me. So it might be the same for you.
And something that we are doing is preparing a proposal that outlines the retreat that is more appropriate for your accountant. Like, we won't talk too much about high tea and things, more the really business-like things. So, yeah, so consider that. We've talked about blokes. Next one's, can I share a room and save money? We have built that into the scenario. So the lowest price package is a share room. As I mentioned, most of the rooms are king, deluxe king and queen with en suites. There are some others that have shared bathrooms or two in a room, not very many. So you can choose. And yeah, so we really try and make this as affordable as we can, particularly for our Wonder Women. So our Wonder Women, for them, it's just the accommodation and food. So we will also be organising airport pickups, if you're wondering. I think an important thing, I guess, to point out is that it's very important that we preserve the culture of the community. And one thing, we're not accepting everyone. If you're from our broader community and you want to come to retreat, you will need to book in a call with either Elizabeth and I, so we can, have a chat before we go to the next step, because it's really important. And now this is for people that are not in the Wonder Women community. So you might be a graduate who's done the 100K and would like to come. So there is a different price point for you. But then for people that haven't done any training with us, we've included a package of training so that when you get to the retreat, you are all speaking the same language, because I think it's going to be pretty tough to come in and, sort of cold turkey. And so we've called that the Wonder Woman experience. And okay, so this is actually the page where you do go to book, but we won't share the URL until we've had a conversation. So this package is a 3-month all access to our Launchpad program. Okay, so that's the program that people come into our world in. So basically, it includes an onboarding session. So firstly, once you register, we get everyone together so that everyone knows what they're doing and what they have access to and so on. So the first thing is the 100K renovation program. You get full access to that. You want to get in there and get started on that as soon as you can so that you are, at least well into it by the time you get to retreat. You'll also get personal support to get started on your reno plans. And by plans, we mean the goals that you want to achieve with renovating. That support is done through Q&A calls. So basically every week there is a call. 1 week it's a tutorial, the next week it's a Q&A. So if you want some help with your goals, come into that call and we will help you to nut those out. All the benefits and power of being together with a like-minded group of women, like the people that you'll be with at the retreat. And some valuable extra bonuses, things like you will also get included in the JV, our joint venture intensive, which is at the end of the May. You'll get to come into that. That's valued at $9.99. And basically, you will be a Wonder Woman for 3 months. And then you will come to the retreat and you'll get a sense of whether our community is a good fit for you. We'll be pretty sure of that before we accept you. So, yeah. And of course, the other thing about the retreat is just some downtime to pamper yourself, because I think we all sort of work ourselves to the bone and don't really get a lot of time to sit back and smell the roses and really ponder where life is taking you. Okay, so this is the value of what we are offering. So you can see there. And of course, if you do decide to join Wonder Women, on an ongoing basis, you'll get a rebate for that. And I guess the investment depends on your choice of room. Yeah, so you pick your room. And so this price is for your week-long retreat plus the 100K program, which you keep forever, plus all the other bonuses that we've put in. So it's an amazing offer. So for anyone who's a graduate, you need to get in contact with us because you don't need the training that you've already paid. So we've got a different offer for you. And if you would like to apply to come to the retreat, if you could just shoot an email to Rona at the School of Renovating, and she will book a call in with either Elizabeth and I, and we'll help you to make the decision as to whether it's right for you or not.
Is Rona available? Rona, are you here?
Hang on.
There she is. There.
Yay.
So Rona attended our retreat last year. For those of you who don't know, Rona lives in the Philippines, in Dumaguete, and so she came over last year to the retreat. Do you want to quickly give us a 2-minute rundown of your experience, Rona?
Yeah, sure. I would be happy to share my experiences with when I was there in Australia for the retreat. And thank you so much, Bernadette and the rest of the team, for giving me this opportunity to, be with you today. So to start off, I was so grateful that I was able to go to Australia for the first time and meet in person Bernadette, Stephen, James, Liz, and at that time Michelle and the rest of the Wonder Women. That was so awesome, and I was like living. Definitely a dream. It was a dream come true, and one of the amazing things that happened to me. Of course, I was welcomed with the Wonder Women community. They were so warm, so welcoming. They treated me like I was part of their community. Like even though it was the first time that they've met me in person. The morning walks was also amazing to start the day. Exercising before going to the event, and of course the bus trip, where I was one of the people who went with the group. We visited a couple of projects of the rest of the Wonder Women, and I've witnessed some of the Wonder Women who at first came in and was talking about getting a project, talking on how to do things, and didn't know where to start. And at that time, I saw them doing their projects for the second time, third time, and it was really amazing seeing and witnessing them growing and exploring things about renovating, and it was so inspiring. And of course, the girls' night out with everyone, where we dance and sing and and lose it up a bit in the dance floor with the rest of the ladies. That was so amazing. And of course, spending time and talking to Bernadette, Stephen, and the rest of the team, interacting about the event and how we can improve and what things that should be done better. And so yeah, the retreat made me realize that women and of course men are so powerful in influencing others and very and capable of doing a lot of things in life, either it's personal or business, and with renovating, of course. So it was such an eye opener and an inspiration. So thank you again, Dee.
Beautiful. If you are interested, email Rona. And I don't know anyone else who does an event like this, something that's specifically for renovators and Airbnb hosts. I think that's the special thing about it. And I also think that the community is like awe-inspiring in terms of very humble and decent, mainly women, doing extraordinary things. And as you may have gathered while listening to this, we plan events like you plan a family holiday. So this is our extended family holiday. And I'm just really looking forward to spending it with you amazing women and a few good blokes.
So just to clarify, Rona, your email is rona@theschoolofrenovating.com.
Yep, Rona@theschoolofrenovating.com. And you can find it in the comments anyhow. And if you have any questions, just ask them in the comments below this recording. And just to finish off, Mikey has got a couple of little videos from last year's retreat, and I think he's going to share them now. So if you could go ahead, Mikey. Thank you all for listening.
My name's Amelie DeVos, and I've been at the Wonder Woman retreat this year. And I actually start by saying no words can really describe the experience. You come to these experiences with a little bit of trepidation. You don't know who's going to be there. You don't know anybody else. You don't know what you're going to learn. And it's been so wonderful. It's been challenging. It's been eye-opening. It's been life-changing. And it's enabling me to really realize that my dreams of financial independence in my retirement are actually possible, and that I can do it in the property space.
The Wonder Women Retreat has been amazing. It's been beyond my expectations. It's been a wonderful opportunity to meet so many wonderful people who share your values and your goals in life, which has been an extraordinary thing. I've had some limited experience in renovating houses before I joined the School of Renovating. And the wonderful thing about approaching renovation from within this team is being the education that you get, the fabulous resources that are provided that support you, online resources, social media resources, but the thing that is just exponential beyond my expectations is the resources that are provided from other women. So the structures that the School of Renovating provide for you to be able to tap into that has been the surprising thing for me and been a really wonderful thing.
What's it been like to be at the Wonder Women Retreat? It has been so enlightening. It has been a life-changing experience for me. I've been through some personal stuff, and the revelations that I've had over this week have been incredible, just mind-blowing stuff. And the connections that I've made, it's just been so heartwarming. I've had the best time and so much fun. going to the Trentham property really inspired me in my Airbnb journey. The way they've mixed like antiques with just, everyday objects that, so artfully curated, that is just so fresh and fun, so much joy in the way they've done it. It really inspired me, and I feel that there's a lot of history involved in that project where there's, obviously local finds as well as, just other everyday objects. It's just inspiring to be in a space like that. I think they've done an amazing job. Wonder Woman Group has an amazing brains trust of women that are rock stars. It is incredible what these women can do, and it is just so inspiring, and you learn from them. You can always, ask someone who's done it before, and we, have Bernadette, who are there to back you up, to, whenever you need to talk through a problem, talk through a project, there's always someone there to tell you or to bounce ideas off. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? It is just such an amazing resource, and, inspiring to get you to that next level that you probably wouldn't feel confident doing otherwise. Yeah, it is really cool.
This is the She Renovates podcast. To discover how to harness the power of renovating, check out theschoolofrenovating.com.